You dudes, Oren here. Lions just had a comeback victory against the Chicago Bears. We expected this to be a blowout victory because that's what we did last time the Bears were in Ford Field, but Chicago Bears were a tougher out than what we had thought. And, I kind of expected it somewhat just because I know the Bears had a really good rushing defense, and I figured the Lions would have to adjust after they stopped us a little bit, and then they kind of did, but, they had to wait until like the final minutes of each half to do so. So the Bears were in control of most of that game, and they marched down the field and scored the first touchdown when they got the ball first, and they kind of set the tone for like the game, and they kind of were in control. They had the more minutes of possession. They had more yards like overall and all that sort of stuff. And then the Lions, like late in the first half and then late in the second half, obviously, is when they started doing the no huddles and 2-minute drills and everything. And that's where they won the game with their offense. And it was an ugly game for a lot of things. Goff had 3 interceptions. Jared Goff had 3 interceptions. I think part of it was because the Bears were expecting, to cover people like Laporta and that sort of stuff, and it's like, the ball was tipped, and maybe like Peoples-Jones ran the wrong route or whatever. One of those interceptions was the only time I saw Peoples-Jones attempt to get him the ball, and that was the interception. And Jameson Williams had a clutch touchdown earlier in the game too. And then Montgomery against his former team, wanting to get that revenge game against his former team, he got the touchdown that sealed it and took the lead. And then right afterwards, I had to switch to Red Zone after watching on DirecTV because the game cut out on me. But Aiden Hutchinson got like the weirdest safety, knocking the ball out, and then everybody kicking it and it rolling through the end zone and all that. So, but a win is a win no matter what. It seemed like for a lot of the third quarter and a lot of the fourth quarter that the Bears are going to win. And it was starting to get to that point, but we didn't give up, and we gritted it out when we had it needed to the most. And the Lions took the lead in the game at the time of the game that they needed to. They were kind of like the San Diego Chargers game. They got the win because they had the ball last enough, if that makes sense. Brian Branch seemed like he had a really good game. He had a lot of good tackles for losses. He had a couple of penalties too. The Lions offense line doing his thing. I know Jonah Jackson wasn't starting. Colby Sorzo was in. He had a penalty or two. But as far as I could tell, like they all did good things. St. Brown being St. Brown, always doing good. They didn't pass to Laporta a whole lot throughout the majority of the game. Like he was involved in some sort of collision, which resulted in an interception. They didn't pass to him too much until towards the end of the game, until he was getting key first downs there. So, whatever works in that regard. Jameson Williams had that touchdown earlier, like what I said, but the Bears were a tough team in terms of rushing defense as well as running the ball. Their entire running back staff was completely healthy. Justin Fields was healthy, and they were all doing what they can to run the ball. They ate a big chunk of the game in the fourth quarter to help with that. Let's look at some of their stats. I'll start with the Bears running backs to show you what I mean. Or their rushing. Justin Fields, 18 carries, 104 yards on the ground. Khalil Herbert, 16 carries, 35 yards. Rashawn Johnson, he's a tough one, 6 carries for 30 yards. Deontay Foreman, he is the one I was the most worried about because he was on that Carolina team that kicked our butts last Christmas Eve. 6 carries for 14 yards. He was the main one doing the damage for running backs earlier in the game, but then he got injured and was out of the game. Well, and then DJ Moore burned us on that one touchdown one. He had 7 receptions, 96 yards, and 1 touchdown. While Justin Fields, 16 for 23, 169 yards passing, and 1 touchdown pass. And then Jared Goff, 3 for 35, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. And like I said, whether it's Goff's fault or the receiver's fault running around plays or the defensive lineman tipping the ball, because a lot of them look like wounded ducks. That stuff has got to get cleaned up. Jahmyr Gibbs, he had a lot of key runs too. I don't think we could have won without Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. He had 8 carries and 36 yards and 1 touchdown and you could really tell Ben Johnson really out-schemed the Bears late in the game, because like a lot of the plays were just, they got completely fooled there. And David Montgomery, the one who wanted the most, the hero toward the end of the game, 12 carries, 76 yards, 1 touchdown, that key touchdown late in the game. And then a lot of tackles for loss, and I like to see that. Brian Branch had 3 of them. A lot of them are on blitzes and that sort of thing. Derek Barnes had a tackle for loss. Cameron Sutton had 1. Josh Paschal had 1. Paschal, I thought, had a pretty decent game in this one, so he's starting to do some stuff. He had to, it's good to see, even though I imagine he and Hutchinson probably had a role where they had to try to contain Fields and not necessarily try to sack him. Then again, Hutchinson had to go against Darnell Wright, so that was probably a factor. Lee McNeil had a tackle for loss, which was a sack. So he got a sack. It's been a while since we've seen a sack, it seems like. And then newcomer Quinton Balhanma, he was elevated from the practice squad while they benched Levi Onwuzurike, as well as somebody else who I can't remember, Bugs or somebody. But he was on the Dallas Cowboys for a couple of years, drafted in 2021, and then we picked him up. He was on our practice squad, and we elevated him, and man, did he deliver for us. So I hope we see more of this Quinton guy. And yeah, and then not only the 3 Jared Goff interceptions, I know Craig Reynolds, while doing a kick return, he got injured and taken out of the game right after a forced fumble from that special teams play, which also led to the Bears getting a touchdown with there. But it didn't look like it was his fault, because that Chicago player just rammed his head right in through the gut there, and that's how that happened. And how does that guy not break his neck on that one? So, but you know what? A win is a win. It's the Chicago Bears have thought to be one of the worst teams in the league. So that being said, the fact that this game was very close, that's alarming and concerning. And I think there are certain players who no doubt had an off day, and combine that with the Bears doing what they do good with the rushing defense, and then their running backs being healthy, because the Bears are a defensive-minded team who like to run the ball, and they were at full strength, and they have Fields back, and he was able to do all that stuff too. So if you remember last year when we beat the Bears one of the games, that was a close game too, 31-30. We got lucky that game didn't go to overtime because the Bears kicker missed an extra point. So if you think about it, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that this game was as close as it was. So, but you'd expect the Lions to still come on top, and they did come on top and win, but it took a come-from-behind win to do it, and not the Bears being in control for most of the game and being in a position where they could run down the clock just by running the ball. But thankfully, the Lions had the ball on offense at the right time, and they scored at the best time possible. So Thanksgiving game next Thursday, this upcoming Thursday against Green Bay. So we're getting in the thick of these division NFC North games. So I was kind of preparing for the possibility of Lions losing this game. And if they did, they'd probably still be in the mix with the Cowboys, the 49ers, and everything for the number 1 seed. But then if they lost and the Vikings won tonight on primetime, then the Lions would be a half a game ahead of the Vikings, and we'd really have something there. So the fact that they were able to win this game, take aside the fact that it was against the Bears, the fact that they won this game means that they can still maintain their lead in the NFC North against the Vikings with some cushion. That being said, they'll probably fall in my Fridge Magnet power rankings, but, a win is a win, and the Lions are still 8-2. When's the last time that happened? So I'll leave you guys alone, but very enjoyable end to this game. And until Thanksgiving, go Lions, one pride.